Let's talk about the Tennessee Titans and everything that this team is doing right now. I love the moves that they're doing by bringing in guys like Calvin Ridley, Lloyd Cushenberry, and Tony Pollard. Now we'll get into their free agents in just a couple of minutes. But first, I want to talk about what this team has done with the head coaching spot. You had Mike Vrabel as a head coach. He had a lot of good years with this team. When they had Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, they went to the playoffs numerous times. They went out there and they won their division. But the last couple of years, the offense have not been in a good place since they traded A.J. Brown. And this team went out there and they made some major decisions. When you go back and you look at that Tennessee Titans team, the best that they ever were going to get to a championship was the year that they lost against the Cincinnati Bengals. And that's when Ryan Tannehill had that horrible game. When they had Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, that was the best chance. They should have been in this situation years ago. But you bring in a brand new general manager in 2023 and ran. He's come over and he's done some nice things with this team. And at the end of the day, I do believe that Brian Callahan will be a successful head coach with this team. It's a tough division because you have the Indianapolis Colts. They're rebuilding. They could be a tough team to beat the Houston Texans. They have CJ right now. They're building something special over there as well. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have Trevor Lawrence. So this is not going to be an overnight fix with this team, but they're headed into the right direction with the moves that they have made. Brian Callahan has been a successful coach in the NFL. He did a lot of good things with the Cincinnati Bengals. He was a former quarterbacks coach with that team. He got elevated to being the offensive coordinator. I like the moves that he did with Jake Browning and with Joe Burrow, and that's part of the reason why he got hired to be the head coach with this team. He's bringing over his dad as well, and Bill Callahan, to be the offensive line coach with this team, one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. And the Tennessee Titans, they need it. Because you look at this offensive line, even when Ryan Tannehill played for the first couple of games of the season, this offensive line was terrible. They could not run block. They could not pass block at all. And it did hurt Derrick Henry early on into the season because Derrick Henry is a different type of running back than a guy like Tajay Spears. He has to wait for the blocks to set up, then he can take off. But you look at a guy like a Tajay Spears, he can just immediately hit the hole and just go. It doesn't take as much time because he's a faster running back than Derrick Henry. He's not a better running back than Derrick Henry, but he's more explosive than Derrick Henry. But regardless, they need to go out there and fix the offensive line. They add in a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry, the center from the Denver Broncos. In 1,070 snaps on the season, he allowed 1 sack and only had 5 penalties. One of the best centers in the NFL this season. And I do think that he's going to come over and do a lot of good things with this team because Peter Skoronski, the rookie, was the best offensive lineman with this team. And he has some struggles as well. On the back half of the season, he did play better. And 863 offensive snaps. He allowed 5 sacks and had 1 penalty. But I believe that this kid will be better going forward. With you adding in a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry, he can help out Peter Skoronski as well. So 2 of your offensive linemen are plugged in. Jalen Duncan at that left tackle spot, you're going to have to find another tackle. And I do understand that he is a younger player. You can hope that he can develop. He's 23 years old. He has all the tools to be a very good tackle in the NFL. But in 364 snaps played this season, he had 4 penalties and he allowed 9 sacks as well. And it's not a situation to where Will Levis is holding on to the football for too long, and he's not getting the football out. The kid started to get rid of the football. Go back and look at the Miami Dolphins game. He was trying to get rid of the football. He just not have time in the pocket. And the wide receivers not helping this kid out either. The only consistent target that he did have was DeAndre Hopkins in the wide receiving room. And you do have a superstar tight end and Chiga Kongwu, who I think will be very good moving forward. But besides that, those are only 2 valuable options for this kid, receiving-wise. Treylon Burks has not been able to stay healthy. And I do want to see what he can do if he can stay fully healthy. But with this team bringing over Calvin Ridley, it's going to be very interesting because now he's a number 3 wide receiver. I still believe that DeAndre Hopkins is the number 1 wide receiver with this team. You bring in a guy like Calvin Ridley, this is an excellent spot for him. He wanted to stay with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but the Tennessee Titans offered him more money. And I see this conception as well. A lot of people are joking with the Tennessee Titans. They're basically saying, hey, you went out there and you paid Calvin Ridley, but you weren't going to pay A.J. Brown. This is a different general manager. This man right here did not trade A.J. Brown. That was a different general manager that traded A.J. Brown. This man right here would have possibly went out there and kept A.J. Brown. And that's been part of the reason why the Tennessee Titans haven't had that much success offensively as of late either, or because the wide receivers have not been good enough. Treylon Burks was selected in the first round when they traded A.J. Brown. Instead of him going out there and being a top tier receiver for this team, he hasn't been able to catch on. He dealt with the turf toe injury his rookie season, and he did have a solid to okay rookie season. Then you look at him this season. Only 16 catches for 221 yards. Has been able to stay healthy. When he's been on the field, he hasn't benefited from great play calling because the offensive coordinators with this team have been terrible. When you look at the offensive coordinating list, you had Arthur Smith. That was the last good offensive coordinator with this team. He left. He went to the Atlanta Falcons. He is now the offensive coordinator with the Steelers. But then you had Todd Downing, who was terrible with this team. A horrible offensive play caller. He had passing concepts that came out the 1980s. And you look at a guy like Tim Kelly, he wasn't better either. So you had two busts there at the offensive coordinator spot. Hopefully with Brian Callahan now running the show, Treylon Burks can stay healthier and he can get more looks on the field. So this kid hasn't been that superstar wide receiver that they were looking for, but at the same time, play calling hasn't helped him out either. Right now, he does look like a bust. I will say that. But bringing in a guy like Calvin Ridley, you take him away from the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's going to put you in a very good situation when you pair him up with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. On this season, Calvin Ridley had 1,016 receiving yards and 8 receiving touchdowns for 76 catches. Treylon Burks on the season only had 16 catches. You look at DeAndre Hopkins, 1,057 passing yards, 1,057 receiving yards, and 7 receiving touchdowns, and 75 catches as well, and he averaged 14 yards a catch. He may not be that same DeAndre Hopkins from the Houston Texans, but he's still a very good wide receiver with this team. And it's going to help the development with Will Levis. This team can throw money out there to big-time free agents if they want to, for the simple fact that you're not paying anyone else right now. Derrick Henry is gone. Before you sign Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins is making money, but it's not top wide receiver money. And Will Levis is on that rookie deal. So you load this team up. We have seen teams in the last 3 to 4 years load their teams up when a young quarterback is on that rookie deal. So do that. You have to put all the pieces around Will Levis right now to make sure that he is your guy. Because if he is, you can go all in. And I do like Will Levis a lot. This is a guy that had 8 passing touchdowns to 4 interceptions on the season. He did have 4 passing touchdowns against the Atlanta Falcons. That was a tough game for that kid. You have him on short week's notice go in against the Atlanta Falcons because you did not know who the starting quarterback was going to be. That's when Ryan Tannehill went down. Malik Willis came in that game. When they were overseas, Malik Willis did not look good. Malik Willis is a third-string quarterback at best. I know some people may disagree with that, but Malik Willis has not set the league on fire, and he's had those opportunities even going back to his rookie season when they played against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the defense basically locked up the Kansas City Chiefs the entire game. But they only had one splash play offensively, and that came from the star tight end, Chigga Kongwu. Besides that, were not able to go out there and get things going with Malik Willis. But Will Levis came in against the Atlanta Falcons, a passing defense that is 8th in the NFL, had 4 passing touchdowns, and dealt with pressure all day long with that bad offensive line. So if you do put more pieces around this kid, you hope that he can be better. And I do understand coaches did not have that much film on Will Levis. They started to get more film on Will Levis as the season progressed. You look at his game against the Miami Dolphins. He stood in there and he outplayed Tua Tagovailoa in that Miami Dolphins stadium. And he went against the Indianapolis Colts. He was 16-33, 224 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 0 interceptions. He got sacked 6 times. They lost that game in overtime, 31-28, because the defense is not good enough. So adding in pieces like Calvin Ridley and putting a better offensive line around this kid, hopefully he can be better, because you have a true competitor in Will Levis, a big arm that does need to be tamed because he does miss some throws because of that crazy throw power, and he is sporadic at times, but a lot of that is because of the bad offensive line play and the horrible offensive play calling. And I look at the running backs that they have. I mentioned Tyjae Spears before, a very good running back with this team. I like Tyjae Spears a lot. He's very explosive, and I do think that he will have a very successful season upcoming for the Tennessee Titans. On 100 carries, he had 453 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 4.5 yards a carry. He's very explosive. But they did go out there and they did sign Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard just had 1,005 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns on the season. He averaged 4 yards a carry. Now, that's a bit of an interesting fit. Tony Pollard is an extra playmaker that you can have around, but he's not a true every down back. If you can split the carries of both of these guys and you just have 2 explosive running backs, I would love that for this team. You still do have Hassan Haskins on this team. He could possibly get carries, but I can see him getting cut as well. They'll need to go out there and get a true power back with this team that can get you those 2 to 3 yards when you really need it, because Tony Pollard's not going to be able to do that. Tyjae Spears did some of that this season, but they still use Derrick Henry as a sledgehammer back. Go out there and get a true power back, or maybe Hassan Haskins can be that guy for you. We will see. But right now, offensively, they look better on paper. Paper doesn't always win. We have to see how these guys are going to play together. But I like what I saw from Will Levis his rookie season. Behind a terrible offensive line, we hear about guys like Sam Howell, who was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. We hear about guys like Bryce Young, the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. If Will Levis was to play the entire season, he would have been top 5 in being one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. So let's give him some credit as well. This kid dealt with a horrible offensive line, and he was just a rookie, and he went out there and he looked very good. We can also look at that Steelers game on Thursday night. That's the game that Treylon Burks got concussed in. He was standing tall, dealing with pass rush coming from guys like TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward all night long, and the kid did not budge. The same with Alex Highsmith come off the edge as well, dealing with pressure all day. They were blitzing the kid, and he was just hitting throws right down the pipeline. You have a true gamer in this kid, and he's pretty pissed off as well because he felt like he should have been a first-round pick. We can go back to that draft night when he was there with his family, and he was the only one left in the green room, and he got selected in the second round. He was happy. So you have a quarterback that's happy to be here, and hopefully he can develop because it'll be a great story. As far as the defense, they did add in a big name in Chidobe Awuzie. Chidobe Awuzie is a solid corner. This team needs secondary help. They were one of the worst rated secondary teams in the NFL, and that's part of the problem too with the Tennessee Titans. Not only did you have a horrible offensive line, your secondary was abysmal. They let up a lot of passing yards this season. You pair Chidobe Awuzie up with a guy like Roger McCreary, I think that could be a very good cornerback duo with this team. Roger played very good snaps this season with this team, and he was very good. He had 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, and had 6 pass deflections on the season, and he's going to continue to get better. He's only 24 years old. You have a money hooker at the safety position. I think that he's solid. He's not Kevin Byard a couple of years ago. This team did go out there and they did trade Kevin Byard, which was amazing for the Tennessee Titans looking back at it, because you trade him to the Philadelphia Eagles, then the Eagles just cut the man. So I think that was a very good trade for the Tennessee Titans to move off of him. You did lose to Nico Autry to the Houston Texans, so that is going to sting. But at the same time, you have Harold Landry, who came back this season and looked phenomenal. Just the season before, he missed the entire season because he had that torn ACL. 10.5 sacks this season. I think that you'll be okay with him. Then you bring in a guy like Kenneth Murray. I'm not going to hype up Kenneth Murray. I think that Kenneth Murray is a solid linebacker to have around. He's not horrible. He's not great. He's going to come in there and do what you asked him to do, make some tackles in space, and possibly go out there and blitz the quarterback as well. He did have 1 interception on the season. Hopefully he can develop with this team. And you still have Jeffrey Simmons, who was a very good defensive lineman, 5.5 sacks this season, 1 forced fumble, and he missed some time on the back half of the season. So they're building a very good football team. I'm not going to say they're building a contender because Will Levis is still young. But at the same time, they're putting the right veterans around this kid. DeAndre Hopkins has been to the playoffs. Calvin Ridley has had some success in his career. And he's not your average 30-year-old wide receiver. He'll be 30 years old when the brand new season starts. This is a guy that got drafted when he was 24 years old. So he does not have that same mileage on him when in terms of getting those NFL hits. And he missed an entire year because of a gambling issue that he had off the field with the Atlanta Falcons. So I do believe that you'll be in a very good situation with the pieces that you put around Will Levis. The run game may be a bit up and down because of the type of running backs that you have, but we will see. And I'm a fan of Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, but we will see what the Tennessee Titans can do moving forward. But right now, they're moving into the right direction. Like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, this team should have done this when they lost against Cincinnati Bengals, when they had Julio Jones. He didn't look the same. He looked washed up. When they had A.J. Brown, should have extended him. He should try to move off of Ryan Tannehill at that time. But it seems like when Arthur Smith, when he left this team to become the head coach with the Atlanta Falcons, everything unraveled with this team. They were still having some success. I'm not saying that they weren't. And Mike Vrabel was still a very solid head coach. But at the same time, he could not figure out the offensive side of the ball. Hopefully right now with them leaning into a new direction with Brian Callahan and you're trying to get your offense better, hopefully he can go out there and he can really benefit this franchise because it's time for the Tennessee Titans to start winning football games again. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the Tennessee Titans this offseason and have they made the right moves? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.